So, let's talk about what I think of as about a hard lock or hard barriers of life. This kind of feels like some kind of dark force, and it's within our bodies, it's within reality. It feels a bit like if you've played a video game and there's a boundary wall where you can't walk off the side of the map. It's not a in-game design, it's kind of like a physical object that's visible. So in reality, it feels like a force which just does not let you do something or go somewhere. Now, this feels a little bit silly because we've been trained to think that life is this hyperlogical thing where magical forces does not exist, except of course electromagnetism and all the other different magical forces of science. So it seems a bit strange to think that there are literally forces, or they're just weird things which stop you from doing something. Now, we all have issues, unless you're immortal. You're probably not listening to this if you don't have some kind of life issue. You'd be off, I don't know, doing something in the clouds, or who knows, living some kind of interesting life. But maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't have issues, but let's assume you do. It could be, if you look at life as different sections, firstly you have the monetary, the finance, the stability, the job. This is the earth element. Some people have issues in this place. Usually you have to solve these issues before you get to the next level, level 2, which is the water element. It's enjoyment of life, it's relaxation, it's pleasure. It's usually this element for problems is to do with romance, it's to do with having a husband or wife, producing children, fertility, etc. You might have troubles in this area. After that, it's more intellectually, or I should say more community and social. Some people have social issues. A lot of people, especially older people, have a husband or a wife, but they're still socially very silly. So again, socially or intellectually, a person who just can't seem to just can't write. They're not very good at language. They have language issues. That relates to programming issues. It relates to learning a second language issue, to speaking, public speaking, writing books, etc. And then finally, we have spiritual issues. This is another part of life where people seem to, maybe they're very apathetic, they're very unhappy, they feel hollow, they feel like there's no purpose to life, they feel defeated all the time, they feel like life's against them, they feel spiritually void, they feel soulless, etc. These are all related to spirituality, to maybe having a lack of wonder, a lack of kind of childlike creativity is another one actually that relates to spirituality. Someone who's not very creative, or even a creative person who's having difficulties. So we all have problems, and as I said, you can relate them to the 4 elements as I did. Now, the issue that I'm talking about is when you see there are ways to solve your problems. Let's go into the ways to solve them. The most raw, ground level way is to work away at it, to chip away, to grind. Let's say you want to buy something. It's to work as hard as you can, to work as many hours as you can, to save as much money, to maybe you even try to gamble, or you try to do something like that, but you try to work hard, try to really do it that way. The next way would be waiting. Now maybe this will work, maybe it won't. Same way, maybe working will work, maybe it won't. For this overarching video, the overarching idea is that when these things don't work, we're going to talk about when they don't work, when nothing seems to work. So the next way is waiting. Just letting things come, looking at opportunities. It can work, it also cannot. The way after that is through people. Now, again, these relate to the elements. Work is the earth. Waiting is the water. People and social and all that is the air. So maybe you talk to people, you network. If you're a people person, people are your life if you're a people person. So you network, you try to talk to people, try to negotiate, navigate, etc. through people. Try to get that thing that you want to buy, or whatever it is. The fourth is through being very creative and very intellectual, thinking up ways. It's also through magic. So it's basically through using your mind, through daydreaming or actively thinking, whether it's passive or active, depending. And you work through this to eventually figure out some kind of creative way. Because life doesn't work in, well, it works in a logical fashion, but the logic is just everything kind of being quantized and everything kind of being put into steps and such. And illogical kind of, what seems illogical, like how could you buy some random thing you want to buy just by sitting around and daydreaming or sitting around and thinking or wishing for it? And of course it doesn't always work, but sometimes you will figure out a very creative way. You'll be like, oh, I can talk to that person, I can do this thing, and you come up with this grand plan to do it, to achieve what you want to do. And then you go out and do it. And it's the same way that the person who works very hard, well, maybe they get a little bonus, or maybe they find some money, or maybe they get some extra hours or something. Things, life, when it works, will help you and push you. Now, let's talk about when it doesn't. So as I said, we've laid out the 4 elements of issues, the 4 elements of like ways to get things. And now I'm going to say, what if something doesn't work? What if you never get a relationship, you never get a wife or husband, and every time you try, every time you date, it doesn't work. It feels like there's something blocking you. What if you try to learn something, you try to learn a science or a language, or you try to speak and you just have these constant issues? You have these constant issues socially expressing yourself. What if spiritually, no matter how many times you meditate, no matter how many times you pray, or how many times you try to develop yourself creatively and all this stuff, you have problems? What if you're constantly losing jobs, you're constantly losing money, and it just seems like nothing you do works? Well, to be honest, I don't have an answer for you, but I'll try to explain the best I can my understanding of this and how to fix it and how to work with it. The truth is, all of us have, as I said, problems. And the problems comes from this dark force. This force which restricts you and does not allow you to go further in certain areas. It's really unfortunate if it's an area that's really important. For example, the earth and the water areas are very important to life. If you physically can't make the money to eat, well, you're not going to live a very good life. It's a little less important if you, for example, have some kind of talking problem or intellectual problem or some kind of spiritual issue. Of course, those things aren't nice because you become like a soulless NPC. But when we try to apply practicality to it, it's not quite as bad. Anyway, so usually these really harsh problems are the ones that, just say, I'm assuming that you're not just being lazy and that you're not just putting a thing off, that you actually have put down maybe years, it could even be years into fixing these things, that you still have issues with them. Now, every time you work on a problem, it does get better. So that's step 1. Step 1 is continuously working on it. Step 2 is also resting on the problem. If you work too hard on one of these issues, you will come up to a wall. You have to rest when you hit that wall. And allow yourself to kind of relax, regrow, and plateau and get to the next level. Usually through rest, you get to the next level. Working is more, you can think like, I'm imagining like a line. Working is you're walking through the line, you're walking through the forest. Resting is you hit hit a point where it's like, I don't really know where the path goes. So you stop, you think, and you go, maybe it goes through there, and then you continue on. And that's, you've hit the next level because you've rested to understand where to go next. So usually using a combination of hard work, of resting, of networking and working with people, and also using your mind and your spiritual faculties is good to solve your problems. But you have to understand these problems which are caused by this dark force, by this incredibly resistive thing, which the harder you work, the more you try on this, it feels like it's like you're being pulled back by a rubber band, and it's just pulling more and more, and you're more and more resistance. All this like a force field, more and more resistance. These problems are very difficult. Usually they come from parental ancestral trauma, which is, or childhood trauma, all these things. But you will get stronger, you will get better. The you in 5 years will look back at you. I can remember myself just 5 years ago, literally pretty much just trying to come into the adult world, just trying to figure myself out, figure what I want to do, who I want to be, and now I've really taken a larger step, and I can definitely say I'm in a better position. At least 90%. Sometimes some things were good, were better back then, but of course most things are better now. And I'm sure in another 5 years, I will look back at myself and think, wow, I'm glad to be out of that horrible situation. I'm so much better, and all the things that I'm having problems with 5 years ago, I was worse in those things. 5 years now, I haven't solved all of my issues, I haven't solved all the things that I need to, but I've gotten better. And the kind of core of you, it's like in Final Fantasy 11, you've got like a main job and a side job. So you can think like, oh, main level and a side level, you can think. So you've got like a main level, which is the you, and you level that up. You can think like your main level is your age. So you might be like 30, level 30, or level 40, or level 20, or level 25 or something. And then the problems, the areas of life that you're having difficulty, you might have a lower level or a higher level. But the higher your main level gets, the easier it is to raise your side levels up to your main level. So I hope you get what I mean by that. So, honestly, it's very difficult. I really can't say that there's a easy way to get over this or anything like that. It is very much a spiritual and a physical issue, and it's almost like life is a game which is literally blocking you, but the blocks are through your body, which relate again archetypally. So again, the water element relating to the bladder, somewhat to the genital area, to the belly, earth relating to the legs and the butt and all that, air to the chest, fire to the head. If you literally have physical difficulties in these, and also the planes of the body, or the faces, the front face of the body, debatably some people relate it to water, some people relate to fire. The back, again, at least in Chinese medicine, be correlated to Western occultism would be fire. The right side would be related to earth, I think, and the left side to air. Similarly, the bottom of the body, again, water, top, fire. So you can just relate all these things, and you can look at your body anatomically where you have issues and all that, and start relating things to your life issues and such. And you'll notice that the more you work on your issues, that your body will change accordingly to it. And that's how you learn to judge a person by their body. Funny enough, though it's fate is an interesting thing. Sometimes a person will look poor, but they are rich. So similarly, they could look rich but be poor. So there are always things, but you can usually in general judge a person by the body. Because just say someone who is born rich, maybe they will become poor, or they were born poor, maybe they will become rich because they have that will, they put the work in and all that stuff. And I hope that was interesting, and that you learned something, got something from that. And of course, have a nice day, and if you want to, check the links in the description for social and commercial stuff. Goodbye. Have a nice day.